And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today I am joined by my substance abusing friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
I apologize for the few week hiatus, but we had to prepare our bunker house for the recent 2024 presidential election. But we all made it to the other side, and we're happy to be back.
Whew.
And I'm happy to be back to talk about Coralie Fargeat's 2024 release, The Substance. I was very much looking forward to this film. And for the most part, it delivered in spades. Margaret Qualley and Dennis Quaid gave excellent performances. Demi Moore, a little softer on. I felt like we were kind of missing some of her reflective performance, although that is maybe kind of part of the bit in this kind of recognition of an individual who really doesn't have anything to offer outside of her sex appeal. But I love a lot about this film, soundtrack. The pacing is, for the most part, very good. It's a little long, as every movie is. But it's been a while since we've talked about a film. How did you feel about The Substance?
I was here for it. I love movies that have that real scary shit to them, not people in masks, not someone chasing you, but the real stuff like getting older, becoming old, the stuff no one really wants to think about. And when you're there, I can only imagine what kind of thought process you have. I can't even begin to think what I would be thinking.
Sure, it's like growing old with your best friend and then one of them dying.
Yeah.
When you've been with them for 60 years.
Yeah. Or, movies like The Father, where he's dealing with Alzheimer's, right? And even to a degree, The Visit, M. Night Shyamalan's movie, that one's a bit more scary and horror, but some truth there, because the old lady is having some sundowning episodes. Are they a bit exaggerated? I have no clue, but they're creepy as fuck. But these movies are always pretty gnarly, and I love them. Along with that, it was a pretty nasty film as far as body horror goes during the transformations, the monstro at the end. But honestly, one of the most nasty scenes was when that producer man, Harvey, played by Dennis Quaid, was eating those shrimp. I don't know what you call that. That's something beyond body horror. That's just plain nastiness. But I'm here for it. I love this idea, this theme of idolizing body image and these pressures that we, specifically women in this case, but not just specific to women, feel. These pressures of having this perfect physical appearance and that not staying the same as you age. But we take that a step beyond here and give it a message of self-acceptance, which is, I think, the overall theme to this movie. Love yourself how you are, because we're not the nicest to ourselves. And I think Margaret Qualley's character, Sue, is the embodiment of that. She portrays that so well. These self-sabotage ideas and thoughts that Elizabeth has. This movie looks great. It had a lot of bold color choices, like her yellow jacket or that orange hallway or that white sterile bathroom. Great color choices. Lots of obvious symbolism, and not in the bad way, but maybe a little too on the nose. Like in the beginning, everyone's stepping over her star and the star fading away over time, getting cracks and whatnot.
Well, the star is foreshadow at its finest. And we have this kind of bookendy element of the audience ending literally where we started, but also Elizabeth Sparkles, the star, ending where her stardom started too. And also kind of representing the natural decay. So, I'm with you on a lot of the symbolism being kind of obvious, maybe on the nose. I hate to say that because when a movie knows what it is,
yes,
it's really, I feel icky saying that because it feels derogatory. Because I think a lot of the symbols were super on point.
Yeah, I will agree with you to some degree on that, but I'll come back to that in a second. The sound design gave me weird vibes, which I was here for. Similar to the vibes I get every time I hear the Prowler in the animated Spider-Man movie. I agree with you. The pacing was a bit too long. I was getting anxious there, maybe the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes for this to be over with.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Sue's whole journey, obviously kind of the centerpiece of this film, and I think the ultimate star, ironically, overstayed its welcome.
Yes.
You kind of get the point, all right? Especially with this kind of thing in the back of my mind that I really wanted that's just not here, and I think, it's obviously intentional, but I can't help but to just really want it and have this real reflective kind of monologue or dialogue out of Elizabeth. But again, I think we get it through her actions of kind of coming to terms that she really didn't become more than her sex appeal throughout her life. But I would have probably cut some of Sue, 10 minutes, I'm not sure, at the very least.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The characters, I loved the characters here. They felt very caricaturish. The performances were great. I'm in agreement with Margaret Qualley and Dennis Quaid really stealing the show. I mean, that man was the most nasty man. But watching this movie did leave me with a few questions, mainly to myself. Does this film rely too much on the visuals and the audience's fears? Like you said, did we need that monologue? Did we need that reflectiveness? Or if you pay enough attention, is it there? There's not too much going on as far as thematically or story to require that. But I don't know if I needed a bit more dialogue. And was it a bit too on the nose with the themes? I'm not sure, because there was this cyclical element to the film that I'm not sure how I would interpret it or where I would place it in my thoughts. Because Sue's character is essentially doing the same thing that Elizabeth's character's doing. We see that young Dr. Guy that got Elizabeth hooked up on this experiment, and then we see that old version of him, and again the cyclical element of him going through what Elizabeth is going through and what she will essentially become. And it doesn't feel like there's a stop to it. But I'm not sure how it all ties together with this loving yourself element that I really focused on, which I love about the film.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We want some kind of realism, some kind of reflection out of these characters, but at the same time, we're challenged with these caricatures, with Elizabeth, Sue, and Harvey especially, and we get this hint of some kind of humanity out of Elizabeth when she's thinking about going out on a date with this guy she used to know or something, or fan, or whatever he is. And, obviously she has her ups and downs about it, and ultimately doesn't do it right.
Yep, she backs out.
And so the film does seem to be self-aware to the point that it knows that what's happening between Sue, Elizabeth, and Harvey isn't reality, it's this distortion. And we see that constantly ratcheted up throughout the film, especially I would say with Harvey, because he becomes less tolerant, he's loud, the camera gets close on him, the shrimps, and the very end, my favorite part, when Sue is quickly decaying because she's abusing the situation with the substance and she loses her teeth, and Harvey's got this entourage of guys and they're like licking their lips and moaning. And they're so stuck in their male gaze that they don't even realize something's wrong, obviously wrong with this girl. We'd probably lose a lot if we were to try to humanize these people and not just have this representation of horniness and self-destruction and whatnot. And I think the visuals echo that everywhere because we have very simple sets and designs, very simple use of colors, and they help feed into this kind of one-note nature of the film. A great note, I will say, but at what sacrifice, of course. So it's kind of funny to talk about it because I guess I'm kind of two minds-ish, 1.5 minds, because it kind of writes itself out of corners of having to speak philosophically about anything outside of kind of depicting the grossness of the scenario. And a lot of these like up-close shots, and especially the shrimp thing, reminded me of Jean-Paul Sartre's Nausea. And also when Sue was doing her aerobics routine. We'd get super close-ups of her butt and whatnot, and they were used in such a fashion that it kind of reminded me of like an inverse Georgia O'Keeffe, where we take something that's traditionally sexy and we make it kind of disturbing, where in Georgia O'Keeffe we would take flowers and we would identify that everything looks like a vagina. So we get this motif of oneness between Elizabeth and I guess anyone else who takes the substance, right? We see that tangentially a little bit, kind of like what you were talking about earlier. We get this on the noseness, on the nose of the nose, right? Of them literally becoming one at the end of the film. But I also like this idea of an Elizabeth who becomes a little obsessed, like we see in the film, with a younger version or just a better version of her current self. But in the film, we get two literal different individuals kind of competing for the spotlight who end up merging. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I like this idea of the oneness because in your own life, you have a younger version of yourself. How younger is that? I don't know. It's relative, right, to the situation, to your thoughts, to your eras. What does late 20s Lucy think versus college Lucy versus high school Lucy? Are we the same person? Definitely not. I mean, me and hopefully a lot of people out there have learned so much from life and have grown so much from life that you're not the same person you were when you were in college, in your first marriage, in high school, as a kid. There should be this growth in your life. And I like that here that Elizabeth is a little more chaotic now that she's younger. And I like it here that Sue is a bit more chaotic now that she's younger. Would you be more of a risk taker if you went back in time? I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't be in that relationship you were in. Maybe you wouldn't pick the degree you picked. You would do things over again and run with it, which is what Sue does here, but she takes it a bit too far. But it's also Elizabeth, right? And we know Elizabeth's mentality. She would take the substance. She is desperate enough to do this weird experiment to get some of her youth again, to get some of her life again. She's not happy with who she is right now. So I like that the merging at the end, this monstro that they become, is the learning element. Monstro, as hideous as it is, because I don't know what or who it now is, right? It's got bits and parts of both of them and ears and teeth and I don't know what else coming out of it. It's purely nasty, but it loves itself. It's almost like it finally accepts who it is, who it has become, who it has learned from, no matter what it looks like anymore. That is not the point anymore. What someone looks like, but what someone has learned. I'll also add that Margaret and Demi did a great job portraying each other as one. There were certain scenes where their hair would fall in the exact same way, or they would stand in the exact same ways. It was very minute, very small, but that's what we appreciate about films, right? This detail. Especially for them not having many scenes together. I'm not sure exactly how that works in production. Is Margaret standing there watching Demi, or does she, get her own scenes on a different time? How do two people who don't have scenes together find a way to become one? It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of a shocking moment when they're both awake at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's going to happen between these two?
Like, one of you shouldn't be here kind of thing. Like a clone situation. Which one's the real me?
Yeah, it's got personality disorder written all over it. Because if you were to look at this film through the filter of these two characters being the same person, like the man on the phone says, the film is nothing but a series of self-sabotaging.
And that's where that theme of loving yourself completely drives home. Listening to him, what he's telling you.
And I can't get away from that feeling of Elizabeth being just this object, and she kind of coming to terms with that. But on the other side of that, we see these kind of bloodthirsty producers just wanting to milk and grind the next big thing, the next hot thing.
Yeah.
So I love that balance too, which really kind of puts me on the fence of where I love this film, because I love that, but I feel like I could have loved something much more out of this. I hate that feeling, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. And one of my favorite pieces of dialogue is during that shrimp scene where he's eating and then he says, at 50, it stops. And she's like, excuse me, what stops? And he does everything to avoid answering that because he doesn't even know the answer to that. And he's like, you know, and then he's flinging the shrimp, and then he's like, oh, hey, guy over there, and then completely leaves. And it really is those scenes with Harvey and the men that should make you aware of how people, specifically women, are being treated in industries like the fashion industry, the movie industries, because there's something there too with the choice of making Elizabeth famous.
And I will say too, I like the casting of someone like Demi Moore, who has had work done, facelift, Botox, whatever kind of deal, because it all of a sudden makes the film feel a little bit more personal.
Yeah, and I completely understand that need to want to look your best, to want to look like that typical beauty representation. One of my favorite hypotheses in the psych world is the beautiful is better hypothesis, where attractive people are often preferred over or believed to possess more positive traits, positive qualities and characteristics over unattractive people, which is crazy to me because beauty is also something so subjective, so personal to that individual looking at you. But then we do have that stereotype looking girl that we see on social media or on TV or whatever. So, I mean, it's just so complicated.
Sure, and in that sense, the film starts to decouple itself from this like expectation, the male gaze, and puts it on the individual
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because no one's immune to waking up on one day and then on another and feeling more confident or beautiful without any external tension in the room.
No, definitely. And it's a struggle, and it's a line that everyone has to walk every day. Women, yes, but men too. Where you want to be pretty, you do the face masks, you do the going to the gym, but we also don't want to take it as far as maybe some of the fat positivity that we've been seeing, because there's also the line of being unhealthy, and that's just not okay for you. Yes, you should love people for their hearts, their thoughts, their ideas, whatever. But you should also want someone to be healthy, to not have to be going to the doctor, to live as long as they possibly can, to spend this beautiful life with you. And it can get confusing, but at the end of the day, it's as simple as being nice to yourself. The last thing I want to talk about is my favorite scene. It was badass. It was awesome. And it was the transformation. The first time, not only that we saw all the cool props with the food and the needles and the syringes and whatnot, but she's actually in the bathroom. She did her thing. She falls on the floor and her fucking spine is splitting open. Her eyes are like taking over each other. Her face is pressed against the floor of a bathroom, and even though it's sterile and white, it's still a bathroom floor. And her tongue is like falling out and touching the floor, and it's nasty. The score of everything going around you. There was a part though after that where everything went black and we saw these colors, and then there was a heart that was on fire that I wasn't completely here for. But it was fairly fast, and okay, I can ignore it. I can be okay with it, at least. Maybe not ignore it. And then we see Demi, Elizabeth, laying there, and we're seeing everything through Margaret's perspective. And she just looks nasty laying there. There's blood all over the place. There's yellow, weird substance thing all over the place. And it was awesome, and it was wonderful. There's a lot of nastiness going on here in this film. The shrimps, the teeth falling out. Everyone hates teeth falling out. The fly, the fly drowning, the monster at the end. But this is definitely my favorite, along with when she pulls that chicken drumstick out of her belly button. That was some of the nastiest things I've ever seen in a body horror movie, and I loved it. It was fucking awesome.
Well, man, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that you liked it. Thank you very much for watching this film with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
This was a bit hard, but I'm going with 15 mil. It's still a horror movie at the end of the day.
Yeah. Good brain.
Yeah.
Well, it says here that it was 17.5,
Ooh.
so very close, and it went on to make $54 million.
Okay. Is that good? That's okay?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay. Good.
I'm sure they're all thrilled. I'm sure Coralie is thrilled about that, yeah. And apparently over on Letterboxd with a lot of people, 1.3 million people.
Oh, I thought you were about to say the score there with a 1. I was like, no way.
They weighed in a 3.9.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I am debating between a 3.5 and a 4. There's something about it that didn't quite guarantee that 4 for me. I'm not sure what it is, but definitely a 3.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm bouncing between a 3 and a 3.5. This film may just need to sit with me for the many months to come. I may need to rewatch it. It's an excellent film, and I really want to see Coralie's other film. I think it's called Revenge or something.
Okay. Is it related?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I'm always here for a film that not only has been directed, but written by the same person. It tends to be a bit more cohesive, which I like that. I loved all the thematic elements here. The visuals were awesome. The body horror, I can't say enough about it, but I'm not sure what I'm missing.
Well, man, thank you for talking about this film, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmsteins. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're back.
We're back.
Remember, we post every Monday and Friday, hopefully forever and ever, with brand new episodes of the Filmsteins on all of our free feeds. Our next episode will be on David Cronenberg's The Fly with our boy, Jeff Goldblum.
I've never heard of The Fly. Can't wait to see it. 80s?
I think so, yeah.
All right, I'm here for it.
I think David Cronenberg's prime time was the 80s, yeah.
All right.
But please look forward to that. That should be a good one. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Patreon. Come by, write in, request a movie.
Tell us you missed us.
But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is The Filmsteins, signing off.